Theoretically, now we should be good.
Okay, so we're going to call this meeting to order, and I would like to call for an approval of the agenda. You have, I hope you've all received the addendum. Looks like this, 3 items that came about 2 o'clock this afternoon. So the agenda plus the addendum, and I see Councillor Osborne has his hand up.
Thank you, Mayor. There's an item on the agenda, I believe it's 6D, under delegations.
Yep,
Everyone there?
yep, page 63, or it is item D. 6D.
Mr. Beljet, yeah, and this was a correspondence regarding STR. As as most of us know, that consultation period ended September 7th. And it's our thought that maybe we should not be hearing any further delegation or consultation at this time because of that end date. If you could pose that to council.
Are there any other comments from councillors? Councillor Moffat.
I would concur with those comments. I would also add that staff are in the process of preparing a summary. So to interject this, and we've also seen subsequent correspondence come in from others thinking that this is another kick of the can or recency bias. To open it up now, I think sets a bad precedent. It also sets a precedent for other matters that may come before council. So I would like to also have that removed from the delegation, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And I have a comment from Councillor Cole.
Yes, he's here because I invited him. I felt he had something worthwhile to say. Understanding that the process is closed in terms of public input, this was purely for council's benefit. I felt he had something worthwhile to say. So that's why he's here.
Okay, and Councillor Simpson?
I would just like to say I thought the same thing when I saw it, that it shouldn't be on as a delegation. It is very well written and it's something very important, but that part of the process has ended. And I believe it should be taken off the delegation agenda as well.
Thank you. I do want to point out as well that following staff tabulation and report back, once council decides whichever way we're going to go, we will go into a whole nother set of public consultation, at which point it'll reopen and people will have an opportunity. I think it sets a dangerous precedent to have a deadline, which was almost 3 months long, where 350 people were able to make the deadline, to then allow others to speak publicly on it. So Clerk, do I need a council vote on whether to remove 6D from the agenda?
What would happen at this point is if there's any other, so you just talk about any other addendum or changes and then vote on it, the approval of the agenda.
Okay.
You know,
Are there any other, I see Councillor Osborne has his hand up, but are there any other items or changes to any part of the agenda or the addendum other than 6D? No. Okay, Councillor Osborne?
Your comment about opening up, once we consider the draft bylaw opening up to another consultation period, how long would that be, Mayor, that period?
I honestly don't know. I need Director Stone.
Maybe the clerk
Yeah,
can answer that.
I think it's Director Stone that would coordinate that, and I believe it's set by some provincial rules about changing zoning bylaws. So I honestly don't have the answer, but there will be a public consultation period.
and
Would Greg
Steve.
have that answer? Because I'd like to know if we can wrap this thing up by the end of the year.
Steve's here.
Okay, Director Stone, if we do go with a change in bylaw and we go back into the mandated public consultation, how long does that consultation need to be? Don't know that Steve heard us.
He's not with us?
I can see his name, but I can't see whether he's listening or not. But it would be, I don't think it would be our goal to make it long. The one thing that we do, oh, there he is, there's Director Stone.
Hello, folks. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. Did you hear our question?
No, I didn't. Sorry.
The question came from Councillor Osborne.
Right.
And this refers to the short-term rental accommodation. If we go to a change in bylaw or zoning, and we have to have more public consultation before we actually change it, how long would that public consultation period be?
So assuming council approves of a wording for the bylaw change, we have to give 30 days notice of a public meeting. And you can hold as many public meetings as you want, but there's only one requirement for one statutory public meeting. So let's say we're into the report to council the second meeting in November. You could actually instruct us to hold a statutory public meeting within the first month of the new year.
Okay, and we give public 30 days notice of that meeting.
That's right.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Councillor Osborne?
Well, yes, yes, it does. Thank you. However, that would a second consultation would require another summary from the department, from staff. When would we expect the summary on the second consultation so that we can get at the business of actually doing the bylaw?
So,
I'd like to know, Steve, I'd just like to know when we can call this a wrap. We've been dealing with this on our plate for a couple of years.
it would be this, we're anticipating the second meeting in November to actually have that summary to council.
Good, thank you.
Okay, so now we call for a vote. There's no other changes that people,
So it would approve the addendum and the removal of the delegation.
and can it be a show of hands here?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I'm calling for an approval of the addendum and the agenda as circulated with the removal of item 6D. All in favor of that? Okay, and that's carried. Sorry, go ahead, Clerk.
So just to clarify, so the direction that staff are looking for and we've received is any future requests for delegation or submissions, the delegation request would be denied, submissions would be forwarded to council to collect and then correspond.
Yeah.
Now, we will let Mr. Valjet in and he'll explain to
I'll
him.
explain to him, yeah. Mr. Baljet, can you hear me?
Just ask if he can hear you.
Mr. Baljet, can you hear me?
I can hear you through the phone, but I didn't hear you through my Zoom connection.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to leave the meeting. Unfortunately, council has just voted to remove your delegation from the agenda because the consultation period on short-term accommodations expired basically at Labor Day, and you have had an opportunity to submit your written input up until that time. Anything we receive after that time will be kept and forwarded to the planning department. And if we proceed to changing a bylaw, public consultation will reopen. But at this point in time, we feel it is inappropriate to have verbal delegations when we did not allow verbal delegations for anyone else, and we had a set consultation period, which ended the first week of September.
So I did communicate with Art Coles, and he actually suggested that I take these steps based on his suggestion to do so. I had already submitted something before the due date, and this is just something that came after discussion with Art. So I don't understand why it would, not be listened to. I mean, there was nothing at the time I submitted this stuff, and I put in my request for this already back before your first meeting, the first one in October. So if that's, I put in my request for October. What'd you say the deadline was?
September 7th or 8th. I'm not sure which it was.
September 7th or 8th?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I had already submitted something before then, not related to what I'm, put together now, but I have already submitted previous input by email.
Then it will have been included in the 350 submissions that are being tabulated by staff now. If you submitted something during the consultation period, it will be considered. Now, I see Councillor Coles would like to respond. The decision to remove the item has been voted on by a majority of council. But Councillor Coles, would you like to speak to this briefly? Oh, you're muted, Art. You need to unmute yourself.
I would like to extend my apology to Leo. Sorry if I misled you, Leo. But also I'd like to add that your report is in our council document, so we've all had a chance to read it.
All right, and fair enough. So it's being considered then, the report. That's good. All right, I guess if they've already read it, have all the council's members have read it, or is it just the ones that are current?
It's been distributed to all council members, and there will be further public consultation if we change the zoning bylaw, but at this point, the agenda has been voted on without the item. So I apologize for the confusion, but we are going to move forward.
All right, okay, all right.
Thank you very much.
I guess that's it then. All right.
Thank you for reaching out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now. Bye.
Bye.
Mayor?
We have another. Councillor Osborne, do you still have your hand up?
Yes. Now that Mr. Beljet is gone, I believe he has left.
Yes.
Well,
This is a good lesson for all of councillors not to act on their own without, the rest of council knowing what's going on the agenda. Be transparent, and then we have less embarrassment. It's a good lesson. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think we stick to our timeline. Okay, can we keep going? Yep. So before we begin this meeting officially, we'd like to pay respect to the First Nations past and present and acknowledge the important role First Nations people continue to play within our community. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? I don't believe so today. Change. Okay, so we're going to move on to the minutes. That the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular and closed session meeting of Council held October 5th, 2020 as circulated. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move.
And seconded by Councillor Coles.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. And I have a motion that Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby approve the accounts in the amount of $1,046,394.28. Could I have a motion by Councillor Osborne?
So moved.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Fellner.
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you.
you're all right. Maybe what I'll do is I'll let all the delegates in.
Okay, yeah.
Deal with the business.
So just from a logistics point of view, all of the delegations, except for number D, are in the waiting room. So Craig's going to let all of them in at once, and we will proceed to hear them in the order in which they're listed. And I'll remind all of the delegates that you have 10 minutes to present and ask you to keep to those timelines. So first, I'd like to welcome Jackie Wareham from Contact North.
And she was not here.
Oh,
So
she's not here.
we'll go on and see if she attends, I guess.
Okay, Stephanie, you're next on the list. If you are ready to present, just make sure you unmute your,
Mayor, did
Can
we-
everyone hear me?
Mayor,
Okay. Bev is supposed to be here with me, but I don't see her. So that's okay. So I had a presentation for you guys. Can I screen share with this?
just let Craig give you a moment so he can enable it, but yes.
Oh, okay, great.
But I also think we have your, did we get it?
We do.
We do.
The counselors, you'll be able to screen share, but all the counselors also received it in their agenda packet. So they
Oh,
should
okay.
have-
Is it easier if we do a screen share, or can you guys just look at the presentation?
No, do a screen share so the public can see it as well.
Okay.
Okay, great. If this is the lady.
I don't know who you're, there's nobody in our waiting room.
Okay.
It always shows at the top.
Yep. It was Sarah.
So up there is the third one, C.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Okay. We enabled it?
It's just doing this.
No, I was running a teddy bear.
Mayor, while we're waiting, did you skip accounts deliberately or?
No, we only had one account A. There are
Oh,
only
okay.
one account this meeting.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I don't know why sometimes there's two and sometimes there's one, but there's only one this time.
We pull it in if there's a declaration, so that they can,
Oh, I see. Okay. The clerk explains that if there's a declaration of pecuniary interest, we split it into two sets so that councilors can be part of all of it and then separate the part that has a pecuniary
I just
interest.
wondered, did we approve it? I didn't.
Yep, yeah, we did.
Okay.
We did vote on it.
Okay, I must have been in space. No comment required, Councilor Moffett.
Stephanie, are you having trouble?
I'm still not able to screen share. Every time I try to hit it, it says it's disabled for me.
Well, why don't we, councilors, her presentation begins on page 45 of the agenda package. So you can just walk us through it, Stephanie, if you'd like. We've all got it.
Okay, great. So I guess to start off, I have a little message from our board chair, Bev Fraser-LeDrew. I'll just read that off for you. On behalf of the library board, I want to express our appreciation for all the assistance we receive from council, the mayor, and Seguin Township staff. We are all quite new at this process of running a library, so it's very reassuring to know that we have a knowledgeable and competent folks that will help us out when required. I believe that the Township Council and staff and the library board have a very collaborative working relationship, and that is important to the board. After all, we are serving the same township citizens, using the same pool of taxes, and thus we strive to practice sound fiscal responsibility and common sense when it comes to managing our 4 libraries. Hence, we want to make you aware of how we are planning to spend the funds that we are expected to have in a surplus because of the COVID shutdown. Stephanie will now explain to you how we plan to enhance our library services to be even better places of learning and gathering. And we welcome all of your questions and suggestions. So if you want to go to the second slide of my presentation there. So at the moment, we had to close all of our branches on March 14th. As per the provincial regulations at the time. Our staff continued working until the end of March, working on inventory projects, and then they were transferred over to CURB at the beginning of April. At this point as well, I also started working primarily from home, working on updating our policy binder and creating a new strategic plan for the library. In June, we started providing limited curbside pickup services out of the Humphrey branch, and then we expanded that to all of the branches in August once we entered phase 3 of the provincial reopening plan. The next slide. So at this point in time, the the Seguin Public Library Board has decided to continue with just our curbside services due to the operational limitations that are set out by phase 3 of the reopening plan. We've purchased all of our PPEs and our safety equipment recommended by the government, and we have all of our policies and procedures are prepared. So at the moment, the board and I are all just keeping an eye on events that are happening, and so we can be ready to safely reopen the branches in the future. Next slide. So due to how this year has gone, we are going to end up with a surplus at the end of the year, which is mostly due to reduced operating costs and salary expenditures. So we've currently recalled 3 of our staff members to run all of the curbside pickup services and to handle our interlibrary loan service and to do all of our cataloging. The board and I are in our final stages of finishing the new strategic plan for the library, and our update of policy binder is about 60% complete at this point. So right now we're being presented with a kind of one-time opportunity to reallocate our unspent operating funds to support our new strategic goals. So this would involve, and then I guess the second last slide was where you want to be at right now. So to support our new strategic objectives, what we want to do is we want to start looking at upgrading all of our computers for both the public and for the staff. This will allow us to improve the service that we can give to our patrons, and also give us the ability to expand on them in the future. Basically, we need more powerful computers given to our patrons, so we can look at getting things like photo and video editing software. On top of that, we look to upgrade our shelving and some of our book return boxes, which will allow us to expand our collection in the future and maintain it as well. And this will help improve our value for the community. And then, yeah, we just want to thank you for letting me come and talk to you guys today. The board and staff greatly appreciate all the support that we get from council and the township, and we're looking forward to serving the community better in the future.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. I'd like to reverse that thank you and say thank you to you, the board chair, your board, and the staff that have coped with a very, very unusual year
Yes.
from a library point of view. I can report that my grandchildren started listening to your story hours in the summer, and they now live in Calgary, but they still listen to your story hours.
Oh, that's really nice to hear. My nieces and nephews loved it too.
So thank you for being innovative throughout COVID. Councillors, do you have any questions or comments for Stephanie? No. So she is requesting, and the board is requesting, that their surplus be rolled over into their spending for 2021. And I personally think that that is a good thing and a unique opportunity for them. Do we have a resolution?
The board is just advising you that's what they're doing.
So they haven't come and requested it yet?
They don't need to request it, that's their authority.
Okay, you're just advising us.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, Councillor Fellner? Yeah.
Yeah, the board thought it would be prudent to come and talk to council before we made such a major step in this.
Okay, for the interest of transparency, I think that's appropriate.
Yeah, so I think it's a it's a great opportunity for the library to get a little bit more current where we need to, and the money. I think it'll go a long way to increasing our service of capabilities for the patrons. So.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much, Stephanie, for all you do. And let's hope some of this uncertainty melts away in 2021.
That would be great. Well, thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Stephanie.
Do we have Jackie?
Not yet.
Still don't have
First
Jackie?
waiting with John Jackson, and he's for the public meeting.
Oh, Sarah. Okay, but we do have Sarah. Sarah, can you hear me?
Hi there, I can.
Okay, you have 10 minutes to present for us.
Perfect. I'm going to try to screen share as well. So let's see if I can get that working. 1 second here. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, yep, we can see it.
Perfect. I'm just going to go into presentation mode here. Great. So thank you very much for the opportunity to present today. I'm not only in front of you on behalf of my family, but also on behalf of our community and neighbors who are affected by a noise pollution issue over here on Horseshoe Lake. So today I'm requesting that we have an amendment to the sound and noise bylaws and to include a noise pollution coverage. So I'll dive in here. So the existing Seguin bylaw, as you know right now, does say that it does not permit any noise or unusual noise likely to disturb any inhabitants of the Township of Seguin. However, that's kind of as far as it goes when it relates to non-construction use of equipment. So today I'm asking for you to update the Seguin bylaw to include the noise pollution standards that have been set out by the EPA, the Environment Protection Act, on behalf of the Ontario.ca. To give you the background on the issue that I'm experiencing, I do have a neighbor who is using a Generac backup generator to provide the main power to their home as they are off grid, and they are operating this equipment regularly in non-emergency situations. And I think that's the key piece here. The generator is not connected with construction as the home is fully functional. I know that your Seguin bylaw does cover noise as it relates to construction generators, but it does not cover any noise related to non-construction generators. They have placed the generator approximately 100 feet from the lakefront, as well as 20 feet from our property line. And just to give you a background of how it's affecting us in the noise decibel. So right now on our property line, it's 80 decibels. On our deck and our dock, it's 70. And inside my home, in my living room, as well as in my bedroom, it's 60 decibels. The regular noise in our community, a decibel level is 20. So it's quite obtrusive. It is a nuisance, and there's a lot of issues that are being experienced because of this. The generator currently runs right now in a 3 to 4 consecutive hour time range. It shuts down for 1 hour and then it starts up again, and it runs all day and all night. I have a little just clip here to give you an example of what it sounds like. So. So that's a regular day for me. Yeah, not quite an enjoyable experience, unfortunately. So let's just go here. So according to Ontario.ca, there are stipulations of what qualifies as noise pollution. And the main pieces are that there's a negative impact on your health, loss of sleep, increased stress levels, potentially hearing loss, and of course, anxiety. So we've been dealing with this issue for now over a year, and my family and myself are having anxiety and very much loss of sleep. So what I've included here is a link to the Ontario.ca noise in our environment guidelines. And moving forward, as I quote through the Ontario.ca rules and bylaws, I have included all the links here so that you can go and see the details behind it. The Ontario noise guidelines does permit some noise, of course. They are classifying our township and area as a class 3 area, which means a rural environment that is dominated by natural sounds of little road traffic. So that is specifically a cottage that they reference as an example. In a class 3 area, they have set a decibel level of 40 decibels as a maximum. And you can see here on the left-hand side, I've included their inclusions limits for the different times of day. And I think this is a great example of a rational allowance of kind of noise that would be coming around in our environment. And again, I've included a link here where you can see more details about this. So the solution, we didn't want to come to you today with just the problem, of course. So we wanted to also propose some additional solutions that, again, are referenced by Ontario.ca and the Environmental Protection Agency. They talk about reinforcement of relocation of generators to non-intrusive areas, if applicable, of course. They also talk about proximity to water lines, proximity to neighboring homes. So we ask that when you are looking at the bylaw and you are going to do amendments, that these be considerations for you. They also reference acoustic barriers. So this is a great way that if you are going to have a generator, I'm not saying you can't have one or we don't want one in our environment, but there are ways to build professional noise walls that then really cut down on the noise that everybody else hears day and night. And then of course, the final ask would be to pass the limits of a decibel level that's in range with the EPA standards, which is the 40 decibels, when you are considering your changes, if possible, to the Seguin bylaws. I just ended on a really nice quote that the EPA and Ontario.ca have provided us, that municipalities can prohibit noise that's likely to disturb the peace, rest, and quiet living spaces of the residents. I know in your bylaws right now, you have some great coverage for so many other noise issues and noise pollution issues. However, one of the things that's not covered right now is equipment that's being used in a residential environment outside of construction, like generators and other things like air conditioners and pieces like that. So I'm asking you to, think about the coverage of this and possibly pass a bylaw that amends the current bylaw so that we can live in peace and quiet and harmony all together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. We have some questions from some councillors. But before we get to them, I just want to ask one question. Have you spoken to the neighbors that own the generator and told them how intrusive it is on your family?
Yes, we have. We've actually been dealing with this now for 1.5 years. We have gone through negotiations with them. We have gone back and forth many, many times in an amicable way. We still are very much amicable with these neighbors, but it's now at the point where they have just said that they're not willing to do anything about it, and it is what it is. And so our next step is we would like to have quiet enjoyment of our property. So for us to kind of either go legal or to go bylaw, that's what I'm trying to pursue here today.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So, may I call you Sarah?
Absolutely.
I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name.
It's Estonian. It's a long name.
Okay, so you answered my first question to the mayor about reaching out to your neighbors.
Sarah, can you take off the screen share just so we can see you?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, go ahead,
Sorry, let me
Councillor
go back
Osborne.
to this.
So my only other question is, has bylaw been called on this issue? And if so, what have you been told?
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm trying to get back to the full view so I can remove my screen share. Oh, there we go.
You just got to X out of that.
Yeah, let me just go up here, stop sharing. There you go.
Thank you.
Yes, I have. So I've actually gone through not only Seguin, and I've spoken to a number of the bylaw officers in the Seguin office, and they referred me to the actual Environment Protection Act agency, and I went through them as well. And they have said to me that the Ontario guidelines, even though they are set forth for industrial as well as residential, at the provincial level, they do not enforce these bylaws. They must be enforced at the municipal level. So that's why I've now come back to the municipal side, and I'm trying to get a bylaw passed so that there would be an enforcement and support from Seguin.
Okay, thank you. And this generation of power looks like it's going to be an ongoing thing for them. They're going to stay off the grid. This is not temporary.
Correct.
Okay, so you're asking council to deal with it. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Councillor Moffat.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually, over the summer, Sarah and I shared some emails, and I certainly heard her frustration and did speak to Don Hood as well, and I also spoke to Steve Stone. I guess one thing that we talked about at a prior meeting about updating our waterfront bylaws with regards to fill, blasting, and can't think of.
Cutting.
Sorry?
Tree
cutting. Thank you. I think we should, this one here, given that it looks like it's even older, 2002, I would like to see that we include that in the package of those that need to be updated, given that we are, we're 18 years, almost 19 years since we've looked at this one, and things have changed substantially in the 19 years. So I'd like to, move a motion to, or put a motion forward that we include this one in staff's review as part of the other 3 waterfront bylaws, to include it and consider the changes that Sarah has noted here and bring it forward and bring it current. And I recognize that we do have our new CAO starting on the 2nd of November, but I think this should just be not necessarily included in his list of to-dos, but certainly as part of what Steve Stone, Director Stone, has already captured on prior council direction.
Thank you, Councilor Moffat.
Do we need a motion to revert to staff? We don't need a motion, but thank you.
Thank
Councillor
you, Mayor.
Cole.
Is that my turn?
Yep.
Okay, Sarah, thank you for that presentation. It was very well done. My question is, do you know, is there a reason why they haven't connected to the power grid? Is there some financial reason, distance?
It's a very long story. I think that there have been some challenges with these particular residents with all of the neighbors around us. And when they first purchased the property, I think they attempted to get power, and a lot of negative things happened. And so people denied them power. So they have then since chosen to stay off grid. And we're trying to all live in harmony together, but they have continued to move ahead with their generator.
And they haven't looked at solar or other options?
They actually installed a couple solar panels, but they realized quickly that I think the installation, they had done it themselves, is not working properly. And I don't think they want to spend the money to have it professionally done. So they chose the easy solution, which was just use a Generac backup generator.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councillor Feller.
Thank you. So they originally tried to get hardwired and were prevented from doing so?
It's a very long story. I'll try to give you the synopsis. They attempted to negotiate with their neighbors at the time. This was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, to gain power. And the neighbors had said to them, we will negotiate with you if you can wait until we're back for the season, because these neighbors were not here during the winter time. And when they came back, this particular resident went across their properties and tapped in, or attempted to tap into their power lines without permission. And it was escalated to the police. And then at that point, things went even worse. So there's hard feelings, I think, in our community right now. That's why I start my presentation off in the beginning that I'm not the only one who's coming forward with this. I have been asked by a few of our other neighbors to kind of voice a collective opinion, if you will.
Yeah, well, a Generac generator isn't typically a solution for permanent power. I mean, they don't really even have that long a life expectancy. They do make generators that are completely silenced that will run under 40 decibels.
Yeah.
You know, and to me, I mean, my personal opinion here is that we need to do something about this noise bylaw a little sooner rather than later, because it's, you know, I had a neighbor that had a standby generator that started once a week and ran for an hour to make sure it would run for an hour. I mean, it was a pain at an hour a week. So I can appreciate what you're going through. You know, I'd like to recommend that staff have a look at this a little sooner, because even if you lower the decibel limit down to 40, you're not preventing someone from generating their own power, because they make equipment that will run under that decibel limit. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Feller. I appreciate it.
Councillor Moffat, last comment on this issue.
Yeah, just to go back to Sarah's history, I've been involved in some of the past history with regards to this, and know of a little bit of the story, and I know that it's safe to say that there has been some tension in the area from day one, I think, up until, you know, current times. So this isn't the first time that I don't know. I think I know exactly where it is, but I'm not, you know, it's not the first time I've heard about this location. So there, hopefully we can come to some sort of resolution so that, you know, this area is in better shape overall, and the community is in better shape overall.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Sarah, your presentation was really comprehensive and pointed us and our staff to some resources. So I would like to say out of this that we are going to refer it right now back to staff to come back with some recommendations. I do think the bylaw itself needs some updating, like the shoreline bylaws, but I would hope that in this case, we might have a staff recommendation that could deal with this specific situation right away. So Councillor Stone and Director Stone and Chief Hood, I guess it's back on your plate to come back with how we can handle this, because I think this is too much. And Sarah, just a quick question. Are you a year-round resident?
So I'm not. I am this is my second home, but because of COVID, we have been up here full-time since March, and our plan is to be here full-time probably until next summer.
Okay, and the next door neighbors, are they full-time or year-round?
They are not.
So they're second home, they're cottagers or seasonal?
Yes, they're seasonal.
So it is your anticipation that the generator will go off when they go home for the winter?
It is, yes. So they've actually been gone for a couple weeks now, and then they were up this weekend, and the minute they arrived, it clicked on and was on all weekend, and then they've now gone home. So I don't know when they'll be up next.
Okay, thank you. So I'm referring it back to staff, and as soon as you can get back with some sort of a resolution, we'd appreciate it. Councillor Osborne, one more comment?
Thank you, Mayor. Could I request that the report back from staff and bylaw and planning, that come back to us at our next meeting, November 2nd, I believe? That should be sufficient time for staff to provide recommendation or comment. We put a timeline on it?
Let's, Director Stone, can I say that at least by November 2nd, you give us a status report of where it stands, and whether we have to rewrite a bylaw or how, I mean, I'm not entirely sure of all the steps that are involved, but let's have a status report on the 2nd if that's possible, and then lay out a timeline for us.
Well, it's certainly a bylaw thing in my books. Don Hood could lead the charge in that. When you get into zoning bylaw changes for these types of things, it takes some time. You actually have to do something similar to the short-term cottage rental thing, where you have to allow for a public commenting period, notice within 30 days, that sort of thing. So for us, it would be, if it became a regulation in the zoning bylaw, you'd be looking at hosting that in January sometime.
Okay, could we ask for a status update and what the next steps are at least for the next meeting? So you can give us kind of your plan?
By all means.
Okay.
I'd like to request, Mayor, if we fast track this as much as possible, because it is incurring harm.
Yep, okay, I agree. Councillor Simpson.
I just wanted to say, great job, Sarah. Like a really good job. I just wanted to say you did an excellent presentation, and if I ever need to do one, I'm going to call you. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
You covered
that.
it really well. Really good job. That's all.
Councillor Fellner.
Yeah, thank you. Are we talking about an amendment to a zoning bylaw, or are we talking about an amendment to a noise bylaw? Like, Steve, is it a planning act issue, or is it simply a municipal bylaw issue?
I believe it could be both or either, and we need planning and bylaw to look at the options.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
So we'll learn more in 2 weeks.
All right.
Okay, Sarah, thank you very much. I'm sorry you're going through this, but we have your back.
Thank you so much for hearing me out and for fast tracking this. I truly appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today, and looking forward to some updates and hearing more of what we can do.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank
I
you.
know.
Do we have Jackie? Okay, we still don't have Jackie Warham, who's Delegation 6A, so we're going to jump to Brian McCullough from ViaNet with an update. And Liz is there. I see Liz McWalter from SMART. And all I can say is these folks have been very, very busy since we sent them back to look at other tower locations. So, Brian, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, Council directed ViaNet to go back and look at alternative sites from the site at Rankin Lake Road. We extensively worked with Chris as well and Liz, and we looked at other sites, and we feel we've come up with something that's going to work. And it's on a piece of property at the corner of Brooks Road and Osler Park Road on the northwest side. So basically somewhere close to across the street from your is it a garbage facility that people bring their garbage to, or the hunt club in that area? The height worked, the distance back to the Perry Sound Tower worked. So what we're looking for in this update, I guess, from council is there any objection to us going forward? We'd like to go forward and negotiate with that landowner, and so we can place the tower there, do what's required from ISED, go through the process, come back to council for an agreement that, you know, we've done the proper process, everybody's been notified, and away we go. There's minimum, I guess we're 1.3 kilometers from the lake, minimum number of homes around there. We think that's a good location. So, and again, you know, once we know that, we can then update our Humphrey, that whatever the sites that we're looking at there work, we'll pick the select the best one, and we can go from there.
Okay, and I just, Michelle and I have been participating in the status meetings, just so that everybody understands. This site will serve slightly fewer homes, 197 fewer homes than the original proposal at the Foley Matheson Park, and 114 of those are within the 5-kilometer circle of it. So we are reducing the coverage by 100 by making the move over to Osler Park Drive. We have a couple comments from Councillor Moffat and then Councillor Osborne. Councillor Moffat?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. I think actually, Brian, it's on the northeast side of, it's right across from the Crofters jam facility.
Okay, is that northeast?
Yeah. So,
okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the legwork and doing this. My perspective is this is a much better site. It is on wouldn't say industrial land, but it's certainly away from, and it's in the corridor that is really designated as, you know, not residential. So for this here, I'm 100% behind putting the location here. Granted, we lose a few residents, but I think it's still it's a win-win, and we do not have a neighbor versus neighbor issue with regards to the location on Rankin Lake Road, and that's something that was important to me and important to people on Little Otter Lake. So that's it. Thank you.
Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. Brian, I noticed on a second map, Humphrey, has the tower location for Humphrey changed?
We were looking at another location on this road, but we...
Okay, before you go any further, I've got a terrible map here. All I see is Lake Joseph Road. It's missing a bunch of, like, Clear Lake Road, I don't think is even shown there. So I'm having trouble with this map. You're gonna have to define it for me.
Brian, maybe, yeah. One of the things is we did put that report together with that map that included Humphrey. We've learned since, and this is as late as Friday, that the site that was being proposed there has some issues in terms of the what's it called? The Industry Canada.
Transport Canada.
Transport Canada, sorry, confused the two.
Right.
And so the goal now is let's get the Otter Lake one in place, or proceed with the Otter Lake one, and parallel with that, look for appropriate site for Humphrey. So we, you know, while your package included Humphrey, just as late as Friday, that situation changed. So Brian, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think we've got a secondary location in the Humphrey area, a private landowner as well. I think we're going to go back and talk to him and try to negotiate that. It's off of Highway 141, I believe.
Yeah.
But yes, the Sid's Road location is going to require lighting and painting, which might then come into an issue with people complaining about lights on the tower. We'd rather not have that if we can get away with that. So there's a secondary location that we've already scouted, and we're going to, now that we seem to have agreement that the Osler Lake Road location is good, we'll proceed to look at this next location, and we can give you the coordinates at that time. Does that work, Councillor Osborne?
Well, it says there are coordinates, and I believe it is Old Sid's Road. Is that true?
Yeah, that's what you've got. But as of what Liz was saying, as of Friday, that location was deemed by Transport Canada that we would have to paint and light the tower. We'd rather not have that.
Okay.
So
Let me back up, Brian, if I might. Sorry to interrupt. Whatever happened to the site at Horseshoe? The original site that you had selected that you were comfortable with?
I think if we're moving the tower away from Rankin, we looked at better locations for a secondary tower. And we feel we found a better location than Horseshoe with this other property. So if we can negotiate there, we think that's going to be better. If for some reason we can't negotiate that, we can look back at Horseshoe Lake.
No, just doing, you just said you found a better location at Horseshoe, but this is
not at Horseshoe, at a different location other than Horseshoe.
I think it's best that, I think what we're doing now is spinning some wheels on this. It needs.
Yes, that's exactly my point. I guess my point is the two sites you originally selected were the best, period, end of story. And now that's all changed.
Well, sorry, Rod.
It's strange because the site that you were considering before near Humphrey is very close to a site that we've already given concurrence to Bell Canada to put a tower on in the same area. Just a meeting or two ago. So I just wondered if that was a conflict of some sort, the fact that Bell's going in there and already has property established.
No, that wasn't a conflict.
It's not a conflict, and I think what you're hearing here is that instead of kind of guessing, they need to firm up what's in the Otter Lake region. They need to negotiate directly via net with the property owner. They need to get it absolutely solidified before they make their final recommendation for Humphrey, because one is dependent on the other.
Okay.
And we're looking at we're not only looking at engineering and technical, we're also looking at property count.
I understand, Mayor. So basically, we're going back to the drawing board.
Right. That's what I'm.
No, not on Otter Lake.
No.
We are authorizing via net to go as fast as they can to the next step with a private property owner, and that will be
okay, Mayor, the reason I asked the question about Humphrey, not Otter Lake, was that Humphrey's in my ward, and there has been a change, which I wasn't anticipating. I thought that was solidified. It's news to us today that the Humphrey site's going to change. That's all I'm trying to highlight here. So
I believe when we asked via net to go back to look at other sites, we were
over for the Otter Lake site, yes, not for the Humphrey site. I don't believe we ever did.
But the reception at Humphrey and the number of homes or properties served is dependent on how the signal comes from Otter Lake.
I realize that. Yes. Okay, so thank you. I won't dwell on it.
We're as close as possible to being firm on Otter.
Thank you.
Now let's let VNet go and do their work.
Okay.
Brian, I want to just say thank you to you and all of your team, many of whom are not on this call, but I know they're climbing through forests and up and down ladders and towers and looking at maps to get us the best site. And so go for it with the property on Osler Park. And as soon as you can come back to us with a firm recommendation on that one and Humphrey, we'll be waiting for you.
Okay, and thank you for all the work you guys are putting in. We'll get this done.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Liz, for all you and your team are doing.
Have a nice evening.
Thanks.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have Jackie? We are still missing our first delegate, but I guess we just move on, don't we?
Well, if you take 3 minutes to read this motion.
Oh, okay, because I can't go to public.
Public meeting is at 5:30, so.
Okay, can't go to public till 5:30, and we're at 5:27, okay. So this is a long motion, take 3 minutes to pass it. That the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn the regular meeting to hold a public meeting for the following matter. It's a zoning bylaw amendment application, R 2020-0009-H for Edwards. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
I so move.
Thank you, and seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that.
Okay, and I do draw, all in favor? And I do draw your attention to the fact that there's quite a bit in our addendum package related to this issue and some neighbor letters of support. So this is our acting script. Council will now hold a public meeting for a proposed zoning bylaw amendment application. In accordance with the Planning Act, Council will consider all matters placed before it prior to passing a zoning bylaw. Anyone wishing to receive notice of the passing of the zoning bylaw amendment, not owning land within 120 meters of the area to which it applies, and who has not submitted such a request in writing, should provide your full name and address to the clerk. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of Council to the local planning appeal tribunal, and the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal, unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2020-0009-H is to further amend the existing shoreline residential 1, exception 81 SR1-81 zone as follows. Delete reference to gathering room in column 2. Amend the special zone requirements in column 5 by replacing with the following. Maximum main cottage lot coverage equals 474.5 square meters. Maximum main cottage gross floor area equals 635.2 square meters. Minimum main cottage front yard setback equals 31 meters. Minimum main cottage deck front yard setback equals 28 meters. Maximum guest wing lot coverage equals 153.6 square meters. Maximum guest wing gross floor area equals 207.9 square meters. Minimum guest wing front yard setback equals 20 meters. And minimum guest wing deck front yard setback equals 19 meters. Maximum lot coverage within 60 meters of the shoreline equals 12.4%. I now ask the clerk to state the methods by which notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property and by regular mail on September 29th, 2020. A revised notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property and by regular mail on October 9th, 2020. Notice was therefore considered to provide in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has anyone registered to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application?
Herb Edwards, the applicant, had registered. He's not here. And John Jackson, agent for the applicant, have registered, and Mr. Jackson is present.
Has the township...
Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, okay, I see. Thank you, Mr. Jackson, you're here.
But,
do you have anything to say on this?
Thank you, Your Worship. You can hear me?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I'm here on behalf of the Edwards family. This proposed zoning bylaw amendment is actually a technical change that's a result of the Edwards cottage being destroyed by fire earlier this year. It effectively replaces a former site-specific bylaw provision, as you read out in the introduction. While any fire is obviously tragic, the Edwards cottage has been something that the family cherishes most preciously. So they're really hoping that they can move forward to actually rebuild the cottage that was razed by fire. Just for translation purposes, all those numbers really don't introduce any additional size, and if anything, perhaps there's a slightly smaller build being replaced. The new cottage, however, is reconfigured in such a manner on the site that the previous technical amendment tied it into a number of side yard and clearances that had no wiggle room, so there was no flexibility. And in fact, one of the things that's happening with the rebuild is it's being rebuilt farther from the shore so that its setback is in compliance. So again, I like to emphasize it's technical, that nothing is really changing other than perhaps we're making it a little better. What the Edwards would hope for is council can support the bylaw at this evening's meeting so they can rebuild over the winter if the Mother Nature weather situation can hold on. And I think Irv is present if there's any specific questions, but we could try and answer any questions that council may have with respect to this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jackson. Are there any questions of Mr. Jackson? And I see Mr. Edwards is now on Zoom with us as well. I don't see any councillor questions, so I'll proceed with this. Has the Township received any correspondence with respect to this application?
Correspondence stating support has been received from Andrew Tamlin, Deborah Kimsa, and Irv Edwards.
Does council have any further questions? No. Council will now close the public meeting and reconvene the regular meeting. And to the Edwards, I'm very sorry that you lost your cottage. I know what it would mean, and good luck with your new build. So I now have a couple motions that will follow this. That the public meeting held.
I just want to say thank you for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. That the public meeting for the following matter is hereby closed and the regular meeting is hereby reconvened. Zoning bylaw amendment application R 2020-0009-H for Edwards. Can I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Cole.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Thank you. And then we have the applicable zoning. Move that the bylaw number 2020-104, being a bylaw to amend the Township of Seguin zoning bylaw number 2006-125, property roll number 4903-1010-06200-0000, application number R 2020-0009-H for Edwards at 148 Hamer Bay Road is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne?
So moved, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Fellner?
Yes, seconded.
All in favor? Thank you, and that is passed unanimously, Mr. Edwards. So good luck with your build.
Thank you,
Thank
council.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving on to staff reports. Trying to read all of it or just the top? The Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the staff reports as presented on the agenda and addendum for October 19th, 2020 meeting of council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
Also, I so move.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that.
Great. All in favor of receiving staff reports? Thank you. Okay, I will read the motion and then I'll ask the clerk to address this one. that as per the recommendation of staff report AD 2020-017, and due to the fact that coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic is ongoing and likely will be for the remainder of 2020 and well into 2021, Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin deems it prudent to continue remote electronic participation in meetings until April 2021. And further, that the matter of electronic participation in meetings be reviewed again at the March 2021 meeting of Council to determine whether or not to continue with electronic participation in meetings beyond April 2021. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Cole.
I'll second that.
Do you want to speak to it, Craig, a little bit?
Sure, if there are any questions. Basically, back in August, Council had reviewed the current situation with the pandemic, and chose at that time to continue with our current practice of Zoom meetings and electronic participation, with the thought of reviewing that at this meeting to determine whether or not to continue, and staff are recommending we continue this.
Yep.
Councillor Moffat, you have questions?
Well, I just have a bit of a tangent question, Mayor. Thank you. Given that we have our new CAO starting in November, if there's an opportunity to have a upcoming call of the mayor meeting that may be a closed meeting, that may be in person, would we still be able to entertain that if we were to do it in the Humphrey Hall as we did over the summer? Craig?
I'm not sure I'm understanding completely what you're asking. You want to meet the
well, I'm just wondering if we should be meeting the CAO at some point as opposed to a Zoom meeting as we, sort of kick off his term, I guess.
I know there will be an opportunity for each and every one of you to meet with him personally. I know that's his plan. He's working out a schedule and stuff now. Recognize that any meeting of council really generally should be public. And certainly his welcoming should be that way. So that would be hard to do in the arena. But I will ask the clerk to speak to it. We have a comment from Councillor Osborne.
I'm just suggesting, Mayor, that I think all along there was a thought that each individual councillor would at some point meet with the new CAO personally in his office, masked up, one-on-one. I think that would preclude the necessity to have any kind of closed meeting at Humphrey and still allow us to acquaint ourselves with each other. Do you agree that the one-on-ones with councillors should be in person?
Yeah, and I think that's what Jason would like. And in fact, I actually think he's thinking about meeting you and somehow learning about each of your wards and maybe even seeing the things in your wards.
So that would be conducted by appointment then?
Yeah.
And okay.
He's working out his schedule now. I think his very first priority is to get to know staff, but he does want to meet one-on-one with all of council.
No, I think that's great. Thanks.
Are there any further questions for Craig? So we have a motion on the floor to keep Zooming until at least April 2021. All in favor? And that's unanimously carried. Thank you. Now we have an addendum item here for 8B. You will see a letter from Michael Ann McDonald regarding the Tate site plan and asking council to defer it. Are there any comments or questions on that? Councillor Osborne.
Was there a reason, Mayor, for the request for deferral stated, or?
I'll be honest, there's a letter in your addendum package from
Yeah,
their lawyer.
I've seen that. She's, looks like a dog after a bone on this one.
Exactly. The clerk, the CAO, and I honestly read it and aren't entirely sure what their goal is.
So there was
We don't know if any change
no
in
reason
site
given?
plan.
There was no
Pardon?
reason given?
Other than the letter, that's the only thing we've received.
Okay, I think it may be taken then. This is kind of, the fact that the letters come out and they've asked for deferral, to me, it appears to be kind of a heads up threat. That's the way I read this. Something for us to chew on in the meantime. I think it's a strategic move. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fellner.
Yeah, I read the letter. I don't really understand it myself. I mean, I think that back and giving us what we asked them for the first time around. I mean, I don't really see why we need to get into a he said, she said type of thing, but I mean, whatever everyone wants to do is fine with me.
Yeah, I know. The letter doesn't help any of us really.
Yeah.
And my personal opinion was the site plan they submitted met all of our goals.
Yeah, exactly my thought.
So, Councillor Finson.
I think that Michael Ann must have a previous commitment or something else on the go, and she's just saying she can't be here, because my understanding was that she was going to be here at when the Tate issue came up again. I see no problem with it. They've met all they've done everything they've been asked to, and I think it would have passed. So I'm not quite sure why we wouldn't have just dealt with it and then she could come back if there was a problem. But anyway, I think that Michael Ann must be busy. I don't know other than that, because it looks really good. I read it over 2 or 3 times and it looks like they've met all of the everything we've asked them to do. So I would have assumed it would have passed. I was kind of happy to see it because I had long discussions with the Tates on the phone, and it looks good to me. I was happy to see that they complied with everything they needed to and things could move forward. But anyway, so I don't know. I guess if they want to defer it, we have to defer it, I guess.
We don't. I've talked to the clerk. We can defer it, or we can vote on the site plan as submitted. Is that correct?
It's not
What does
really
Steve think we should do?
It's not really a vote tonight. What you would do is give direction to staff to prepare that site plan agreement. That would come back with a bylaw. When I looked at the letter a couple of times, I came down to what staff would be looking at from the clerk's perspective are 2 items on this letter. One is whether or not to defer, and the other one is whether or not to permit a delegation. They seem to request in the very last or second last paragraph a sentence that they want it deferred until they can have a delegation. I'm like council, if it was being recommended to be passed, I'm not sure why they want the delegation, but that's the 2 items from a clerk's point of view that I'm looking for, is if council is going to defer it or give staff direction to continue with the proposed site plan agreement for the next meeting, and if you are, whether or not you're willing to entertain a delegation, keeping in mind the difference between a delegation and speaking to the application. A delegation is, as we've just had 3 or 4 of them. What we had advised the applicants was, no, they wouldn't be a delegation. They would be present to answer questions that council had, if council had any on the application. That seemed to be an issue by the looks of the letter. We weren't aware of that until we received this letter, but that seems to be a difference from what they were asking.
Okay, Director Stone, you have something to say before we have a couple other comments from other councillors.
Well, certainly the matter before council is or in response to what council was requesting last time. So they submitted the documents and asked for it to be on this meeting. So that's what's being presented to council. And it's true, it's a matter before council as directed by the Committee of Adjustment. So you're in your purview to make a decision on it tonight. And just like any other planning application, there is an appeal mechanism should they not be happy with what council decided.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Collins.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I was over at the site. We were told, turn off. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can't see
Okay.
you. Can hear you.
Can't see you, but we can hear
Why?
you.
How come?
Oh,
don't
we
know.
know. You dropped.
We saw you a minute ago, but we can hear you clearly.
You can hear me okay, but you can't see
Yep.
me? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, that's good. No, I've been to the site. The boat ramp's still there. And I know it said in the report that the boat ramp was removed, but it's not. And I just wanted to know why they were saying, or they were claiming, that there was a boat ramp there. It's been there that cottages used in the past. That's a false statement. There's never been a boat ramp there. And I have proof of that from neighbors and from the Cottage Association.
So if I may, Council, the reference to the boat ramp being removed is actually to the site plan that will be registered on the property.
Okay, good. Okay, good, Steve. Thank you. Because it is still there.
So
And-
one of the terms.
With the letter from the attorney, it seems that they want to keep it. I mean, that's what I gather from the letter, is that because they're saying, the attorney said that there used to be a boat ramp there, but there never has been. It was an EP zone. It was a wetland before the Tates purchased it.
But basically, Director Stone, if I'm reading the site plan, whether there was or there wasn't, if the site plan's approved, there will not be a boat ramp.
No, that's right. And then we'll actually, our solicitor will put in clauses within that agreement that says, as you see it today, whatever's there from a boat ramp on the terrestrial side will be removed and naturally landscaped as per this drawing. So, and we'll retain securities for that as well. That'll be a part of the conditions.
Okay, Councillor Osborne, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor. This letter from the lawyer, it looks as though they're asking us to defer this matter because in the allegations are that we are about to make a decision based on false facts and information that was provided to council. So they're alleging that there's been false allegations here and there's been conflicts of interest and all kinds of stuff. So I'm quite surprised we're dealing with this, because we're dealing with a lawyer here, that we're dealing with this in open, number one. Do we not normally deal with legal in closed?
I'll turn it over to you, Craig.
This is not the township's legal counsel. This is correspondence from an agent for the applicant. And keeping in mind, as I mentioned earlier, reading through the letter, a lot of it is not relevant, in my opinion. Talking about an integrity commissioner has nothing to do with council. Council does not dictate to an integrity commissioner what they do and do not do, neither does staff. As you recall, the integrity commissioner is their own. So those things on that type of an issue, to me, don't require anything of council.
Okay.
The only things I see are, sorry.
Go ahead.
The only things I see, as I said, are whether or not council is going to defer it at the request, or no, not defer it and go ahead and proceed, which would be direction to staff, and whether or not council is willing to entertain a delegation on this party on the matter. If council decides to give staff direction to prepare the agreement in the bylaw for the next meeting, then I would like clear direction on whether or not to have a delegation at the next meeting.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, well, I guess, Greg, and I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. Although there's allegations in here that the creek is not really a creek, and that the facts that were presented to council in order to enact a site plan agreement may be false. So we have to look at that, because we are making a decision on a site plan agreement that will control this property. I, for one, would like to make sure that we have our ducks in a row and that the information we're basing this site plan agreement on is correct fully. So that's my only concern. Otherwise, I'd say let's proceed.
And
site-
Councillor Osborne, I think that's where you would decide whether or not you would want to have the delegation to hear
First,
what they're alleging.
right. That's my only conundrum here is maybe we should listen to this lawyer before we actually go ahead with site plan. I don't know.
No.
Mr. Felder, you're next.
Steve, tell me whether I'm correct, but I mean, the boat ramp, as discussed, the part under the water, the Tate's had a permit from the ministry to construct that part, correct?
That is correct.
And it can stay. We don't have any jurisdiction over that, and it wasn't our concern,
No.
right? So our only concern was the road down to the shore, right?
That's right.
Which we wanted to put into grass.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
The same situation that a lot of people on that lake have, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So the ditch, as I understand it, was exactly that, was a ditch. And could be cleaned out or, reorientated or whatever happened. So to me, that isn't an issue. The issue was how the property was going to be re-landscaped due to the infringement on the tree cutting bylaw and perhaps infringement on the fill bylaw. Is that sort of the understanding?
That's correct.
So we looked at the first one, didn't think it did enough, said come back with something a little better, which it looks to me like, it looks like they've come back with something better. So I don't personally see any validity in any of this stuff that's in the letter. I mean, it doesn't really affect anything that was discussed.
Right. So if I can.
So for me, I'm not sort of the opinion that we should entertain a delegation, and I'm not of the opinion that we should really delay it. I don't think it benefits anybody.
So
maybe I'm missing something here, but
no, I think Terry, you've got it right. I'll just, I think it's page 96 in the report. And this is why council has every right to make a decision on this, irregardless of what their letter says. So the Committee of Adjustment approved the redevelopment of their property subject to conditions. And the first condition was that it would be subject to site plan control and that they be in keeping with waterfront design guidelines and landscaping of the property within the first 20 meters of the shoreline, and the new driveway installed within the first 20. So what Committee of Adjustment did is they approved their application with the idea that they'd be entering a site plan and they would be removing the boat ramp / driveway, whatever you want to call it, because it's not allowed within the first 20. That was a condition for them to appeal. They did not appeal. The committee's decision is final, and as a result, count one condition if it approves the site plan tonight. So it's really, you're acting on the requests of the Committee of Adjustment, and you're in your purview to do so tonight.
right. So in effect, we approve this plan. They've complied with the
That's right.
provisions granting the minor variance, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Councillor Collins.
Yes, I agree with Councillor Fellner and Director Stone that this should be under site plan control as it's written in our report. Yep. I agree to go ahead with it, not a problem.
Councillor Osborne, do you still have your hand up?
No, I'm finished. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, so, help me, clerk, what do I ask for?
What I would expect, and Director Stone can confirm or correct me, is the direction to planning to prepare the site plan agreement as recommended, and the site plan agreement and bylaw would come back to the next meeting.
Okay, I would like to give that direction to Director Stone to prepare the site plan agreement. I would also suggest that we not entertain a delegation unless it is directly related to land use and the site plan. We don't need to hear all this other stuff about integrity commissioner or anything. It is irrelevant to the business at hand.
I agree.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Is everybody basically on the same page? Okay,
Yes.
so that's enough.
Yep.
Direct. Gail, sorry, Gail, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just had a small question. If we approve it tonight, like approve what we have in front of us or deal with it tonight, do they still, like if she wants to do something, I don't know, do they still have can they appeal it? Can they, I don't know, can they go forward with, I'm not sure why they're going forward with this. This doesn't appear to be relevant, but they have some problems. Is there anywhere for them to go with those? Is there anything else for them to do if we do this tonight?
Craig, you're gonna have to help me there.
Steve might know.
The letter that I read has many things to do with many things. The ones related to integrity commissioner, we have an integrity commissioner. There is a process that is on our website. That is not in council's hands or staff's hands.
Okay.
So I can answer that as far as integrity commissioner. Some of the other stuff, unless they specifically request something from us where we can help them, I don't intend to take any actions on that letter other than to say that planning will notify them that council has given direction to proceed. It will come back November 2nd, and they may be a delegate only related to the land use planning matters of that if they wish.
Okay. Is that what you were going to say, Steve?
Director Stone, you want to add to this?
No, I mean, I'll speak to it at the next meeting because it has to do with site plan agreement. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Just one other stuff.
Yep.
Thank you, Mayor. This lawyer mentions that the Tates did not have an opportunity to respond. Were they not on a Zoom meeting with us at some point?
They were on one Zoom meeting. We'd have to go back and check the tapes, but they've been offered many opportunities to comment.
Well,
and they've been commenting directly to Councillor Finson and I regularly.
Well, one of the comments from the lawyer is that they have not had the opportunity to respond. So I just wondered how valid that is.
I think as I kind of read the letter, they wanted to be a delegate, not a resource to the question. And they were offered to be on today's call for this part of the discussion. But for some reason, they must think that delegating is different than being the resource. That's all I know, and I'm guessing a little bit.
So they declined to be on this meeting today.
They asked to defer it.
They asked to defer it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so is that good enough for the action items? Okay, thank you very much. And we will move on to 8C, and I believe this is Director Kopich. Welcome back from holiday.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, tell us your recommendation. We have seen it, but I think you should give us some of the background.
Well, basically, the bylaw regulates traffic in the township, and it relates to regulatory signs and speed limits throughout the township. We have a couple of issues that we'd like to address. Primarily, we've got James Bay Junction Road. Since it's been paved, we've had numerous calls about how fast people are driving along the road. And there's parts of it that are 60 and it's 40 kilometers an hour near the railroad tracks on 200 meters on either side. So it's a pretty abrupt jump. We've had a lot of complaints about the speed, and we felt that at this time it would be a good time to drop it to 40 kilometers an hour, because that's the general trend happening in areas of residential population on major roadways. This is a major roadway because we have over 900 vehicles a day average daily traffic on this road. So it was our recommendation that we go to change the speed limit for the whole length of the road for 40 kilometers an hour. The second one is a safety concern brought up by residents on Turtle Lake Road near the intersection of Star Lake Road. And because it's such a long straightaway, there's been people going through that intersection. There's no stop sign yet, but there's been people going through that intersection at over 100 kilometers an hour. And in order to, one way to stop traffic or to slow traffic, not really slow traffic down, but just to make the intersection safer, is we're proposing to put a full three-way stop at this intersection. It's a T-bone intersection, and the fact that both of these roads are busy and Turtle Lake and Star Lake will be being upgraded next year and paved. We think it's very important that this intersection be controlled with stop signs at all intersections. And finally, Blackwater Road and Bradley Road. This is a very, very awkward, very awkward intersection, just the geometry of it. And we feel that it's important that that also be a controlled intersection, just because of just the geometry of the road makes it difficult that somebody from Blackwater could go straight into Bradley Road, and somebody coming around the corner from the north end of Blackwater, if they didn't have to stop, they could go very quickly there and there could be a bad accident. So it's just not a good orientation. So that's where we stand.
Thank you. We have a question from Councillor Osborne.
Thank you. I concur with your comments, Peter, on Rankin Lake James Bay Junction, Turtle Lake and Star. That's going to become a problem. Just a question on the Blackwater Bradley. Is that where Blackwater pretty much takes a 90-degree turn coming south, a 90-degree turn to the east? And
that's
Bradley,
exactly where it is, yeah.
Bradley goes off abruptly to the west on a curve and a bit of a hill?
Yes.
Is Bradley, I thought Bradley would just service a few driveways. Is it a major artery?
Bradley Road actually has a number of cottages on it.
Oh, it does?
Oh yeah, it's all on, I think it's Blackwater Lake. There's quite a few cottages on that road, and
I've always assumed that 90 degree is a thoroughfare, and that Bradley just had a couple of places down the road, but it's a lot busier than that. I agree. That's an accident looking for a place to happen. Thank you.
Councillor Moffat.
Thank you, Mayor. I did have an opportunity to speak to Mr. Copper-Shirley this afternoon, and don't get me wrong on this comment. I am all for improving our safety, but I want to make sure that we have data that demonstrates, that we do have speeding on these respective areas. And I know that Peter is working in Humphrey with the radar, and in the discussions he indicated that he could move it over to James Bay to buttress, the comments that we've received from residents. But I think it is important that we do collect data that we have demonstrated that it is an issue, and there's, a predominantly higher number of speeders than we may not, we may think that exist or don't exist. So I just want to make sure that, going forward, that we do have, some data to support changes. Like I've spoken to people, and everyone would love to see Rankin Lake Road drop down. They've complained they're not interested in 40 that I've spoken to. They would be interested in 50. So it'd be interesting to see what the data would demonstrate, whether people are doing 80 and a 60 or doing 70 and a 60 now, to be able to understand exactly what the numbers are. But like I said, I don't discount, but I just want to make sure that we have the right data going forward, and we can support our decisions based on that. That's all. Thank you.
Councillor Cole.
Yeah, thank you. I would support this initiative. I can tell you for James Bay Junction Road, there's a group of citizens on Jays Bay Junction that wanted to petition to slow the traffic down because since it's paved, it's been worse than it was before. It was bad before. And I guess the other issue is that there's currently a lot more people walking their dogs on all of these roads. And there's hills and dips, and you can't see what's coming the other side. And it's time we, I think, took this action, and we may need to take more enforcement action to make sure it works, so people get used to the idea, because they're used to traveling at 50 or 60 or more. And this is long overdue. I self-support this. You know where the parking lots are at Rose Point Trail as well. People are always crossing the road there. There's dogs, some off leash, which shouldn't be, and so on and so forth. So it's really long overdue. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you. Councillor Vincent.
I just wanted to say that I, of course, support all of it, but I'm just curious, Peter, as to why 40 and not 50? I've never seen a 40 except at the high school. I've never seen a 40 kilometer in the residential area. It's always been 50.
30 and 70.
Well, Sandy Plains Road is 30.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't go down there, yeah.
Yeah, it's a high density area, but this has a way more cars going through it. It's a busy road, and there's big trucks and so on. And
I just think it's hard to get people to go 50, never mind 40, and that was the only reason I asked it, if you thought that it would work.
There's a Transport Canada issue in the middle between the two railroad tracks that requires basically a 40 kilometer.
Okay, so that's why.
Transport Canada. So if we kept it at 40, people know that it's 40 all the way through.
Okay, thank you.
It's a rationale.
Yeah, I get it. That makes sense then. Thank you.
Thank you. I, from my point of view, ratepayer safety trumps almost everything else, and I believe that we can collect the data as we go. We've only got 2 of these. I learned something the other night. The speedometer things are called speed spies. That is what the police refer to them as. So we have 2 speed spies that will get moved around the township to help us collect the data. But if we've got people with petitions and already complaining about speed, I think we should act on them. And Peter, I think these are great initiatives, and stop signs do work. So thank you for the initiative.
Okay, thank you. For Councillor Moffat, we can place those signs on, or the speed spies on Rankin Lake next, or yeah, we can put them there next.
Bingo, Daryl.
Okay, thank you, Peter, for the initiative, and I'm assuming you communicate with OPP when you put up new speed signs and speed limits too.
Yes, we got good feedback from Jeremy from the OPP. So you may have noticed a bit more activity there, Gail, or maybe it's when you're not around that they're around. So we're going to finish our analysis of Humphrey Drive in a week, and then that's when we'll move the radars to another location.
I would love to see something on 632. They had all the fancy cars here this weekend, and the motorcycles, there's been a couple of accidents. Something needs to be done. And they're going 120. They're not going 50 or 60 or 70 or 80. You know, Ann, you drive along there.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway,
I know. And there was a road rally this weekend, and they were
just zinging.
You can do it
Anyway.
130 on the straight stretches, Gail.
road rally, but boy, they were traveling fast, and they
They're
were
not so good on the corners. Anyway, thank you.
Peter, go for it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have some shore road allowances. Council will now consider the following shore road allowance applications. Shore road allowance application number RAF 2020-0005-H for Barber on Lake Rosso, bylaw number 2020-096 and Shore Road Allowance Application Number RAS-2020-0004-H for Cunningham, Lake Joseph, bylaw number 2020-100. Have there been any written objections received related to either of these applications?
No written objections have been received.
So we have the first one, that bylaw number 2020-096, being a bylaw to close, stop up, and sell a portion of original Shore Road Allowance, application number RAS-2020-0005-H for Barber, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and is passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne?
So moved.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Fellner? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. And I have that bylaw number 2020-097, being a bylaw to deem Lot 4 of Plan 183 pursuant to Section 50(4) of the Planning Act not to be part of a plan of subdivision, property roll number 4903-010-19700-0000, and file number D 2020-0005-H for Barber is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
Yes, I so move. I'm trying to get that little button up there.
Councillor Finch, do I have a second?
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you very much. And that bylaw number 2020-100, being a bylaw to close, stop up, and sell a portion of the original Shore Road Allowance application number RAS-2020-0004-H for Cunningham, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Coles.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Thank you very much. Again, unanimous. Okay, and we're moving into business. That the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby accept the resignation of Julia Fraser from the Township of Seguin Museum Committee and thanks Mrs. Fraser for her service on the committee. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne?
So moved.
And seconded by Councillor Fellner?
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor? And I do want to say a very special thank you to Mrs. Fraser. She has served this council in many, many, many ways for many, many years. She deserves rest. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby appoint Greg Getty to the Township of Seguin Committee of Adjustment for the remainder of the term of council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
I so move, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. So Committee of Adjustments is back up to full complement. And we have on our addendum the issue of Remembrance Day. We actually have two addendums, C and D. So let's first deal with Remembrance Day. As you can see from the addendum, there it is quite changed from normal because of COVID. I guess we do need to be cognizant of the provincial guidelines that Maximum of 10 people can gather outdoors and 25 indoors.
Other way around, the other way around.
Sorry. Okay, 10 indoors, 25 outdoors. So we have basically Foley, Orville, and Rosso planning some sort of a ceremony. Humphrey, as you will recall, has always been in the school, and they are suggesting a video. So I put it out who would like to attend in Foley or can attend. It's at 10 o'clock in the morning on November 8th. Do I have any volunteers? Councillor, well, I have a question. Okay, Councillor Coles, you'd like to attend? You're on mute, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I can do that one.
Okay. Councillor Moffat, you have a question?
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I'm not able to attend the November 8th in Foley this year. So,
Okay, well, if Councillor Coles will represent us, that would be great. Orville?
Yep, that's me.
It's on November 11th at 10:45. It's always outdoors. I'm assuming
Yes.
that Darren is canceling his tea and cookies.
He might be, I don't know, Mayor, but I will certainly be there this year. I missed it last year due to a funeral, so.
Okay, so we've got Ted Collins in Orville.
Yep.
Humphrey making a video. I'm comfortable doing it as if I work with the school, or if you want to do it, Councillor Osborne, it's your.
I've been going to the Remembrance Day for the last 10 years. I
Do you want to do it?
I don't quite understand how you do a virtual assembly and place a wreath. Where do you place the wreath if you're not at the school? I don't understand.
We're not sure, although Andrea did speak to the people from the school and they're going to organize it.
Okay, well, why don't you let me deal with Pam Moorhouse? She's the one that's involved here. I've dealt with her in the past.
Okay, so you want to do the video?
Sure.
Andrea, can you let Pam know that they'll be working with Councillor Osborne to do it? And the wreaths will be here. That's where you're picking up the wreaths up.
No, I know it's always there. The wreaths are kept at the township, all wreaths.
So maybe just for clarification, once the members have decided, Andrea will be in touch with each individual member with further information as it becomes available.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. Rosso is also November 11th, and it is out of doors. Councillor Finson, do you want to take it?
Yep. I'll do,
Okay.
and what time was it? Was it 10 o'clock?
10:45 outside the Memorial Hall on.
Can I? Yeah. Can I ask a question about the 25 people outdoors? I'm just curious because they had the market.
Yeah, it's more than
They
25.
had they had the market, and I'm pretty sure there was more than 25 people at the market. There you go.
There we go. Hi. Yeah, the market is different because it
Mhm.
was basically a retail organization. They were selling things as opposed to a gathering.
A gathering's a
That doesn't
gathering.
make any sense. But how do you,
There's different rules.
The
rules may not make sense, but they are the rules.
Yeah, I get that, but how do you control it to 25 people is all I'm asking. Do they have to be by invite only? How do you do that?
OPP.
I don't know. Anyway, okay, Michelle, we'll talk later.
Yeah,
I'm just curious.
I think the other piece is to, whoever the organizer is to make sure that the people are physically distanced.
Yeah.
With
We were
masks
thinking,
on.
we were thinking of not laying wreaths, just having all the wreaths there. So nobody had to walk up and actually lay the wreath. The wreaths would be there and we would do the service, just do a short, quick service. But I talked to Peter Simmons. So we've already talked about it. But anyway, we were thinking of not having individuals do it just because of the hands-on and all that. So anyway, we'll figure it out later. Thank you.
Councillor Vincent, do you have an issue if I attend in Rosso as well?
Oh, no, not at all. That would be great.
Okay, I will try and do that as well. Councillor Moffat, you have a question?
Yeah, just coming back to the wreaths, I just want to remind everyone who goes to the ceremonies that they need to pick up the wreaths or make arrangements. And I'm not sure, just to Councillor Finson's comment about touching and everything else, I'm not sure how that is supposed to occur, drop off and pick up. You know, obviously not same day, but just need to make arrangements or some protocol with regards to that. That's,
I think you'll be hearing from the clerk's office on how to do it.
well, I just want to remind Councillor Coles, because last year, I think we left it at the church a little long.
Was that what happened?
Yeah.
Where'd it
So,
go?
okay, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so you've got what you need from that? Okay. This is the request from the Georgian Bay Biosphere for ice cap. There was a sample letter in your addendum package, and this is the motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby approve the letter of support attached to this resolution as Schedule A for the Georgian Bay Biosphere Climate Solutions Project under the Climate Action and Awareness Fund. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Collins.
I'll second that, Mayor.
All in favor? Okay, so I guess it looks like this has to be done by day after tomorrow. So can you have it? Yeah. So is this already on letterhead? Okay, I'll sign it afterwards. Okay, so I will sign the letter today and it will go out. Okay.
Thank you.
Chief Administrative Officer's report. We are moving along.
We are moving along, yes. Again, it's been a busy couple weeks, lots of Zoom meetings, lots of other meetings. Spent a lot of time with staff with the COVID-19 issue that we had at the arena, and talking to them about the new CAO that's coming. So it has been busy.
Does anybody have any questions of Michelle on her report? Councillor Moffat.
Yeah, Michelle, we touched base last week on the upcoming pool meeting. I'm wondering if you have any further information for the meeting on the 22nd at 7 p.m. If there's something you're able to send or share, if you got an update.
There isn't a package available yet, but I am expecting it will be available tomorrow. And there will be a report with attachments and an agenda. So.
Perfect.
It is a public meeting. You can watch it on Thursday. And I specifically asked Jason to join us as an observer. So.
Yeah, it's interesting is that the public process is not as public as I think what we need it to be in terms of getting the information out to people, because I've had a number of questions asking me for an update on the pool and sort of directed them, but still waiting for those last pieces to be able for residents to listen in. So
I think you're going to perhaps that some of the mayors will, assuming what transpires on Thursday, that maybe we will specifically ask for some media releases and things on websites, because that was discussed at the heads meeting. How are we going to get more information out?
yeah, no, that would be good.
Yeah, we didn't have any facts, so.
Yeah, yep.
Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Michelle, are these pool wellness committee meetings public?
Yes, they are. It will be live streamed on YouTube.
The CAO meetings are not.
Has that been happening up till now?
All the CAO meetings are not, but the meetings with the steering committee are, and the one that's on Thursday will be live streamed at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I've had a couple of requests from ratepayers asking for information on how much dollars is spent and where it's going, and what the budget is and what the plan is and why architectural drawings have been done.
And that will be available on Thursday, Councillor Osborne.
And who approved it? Did our council approve all of that? And I didn't have the answers because I have very little information myself. So.
The only thing that has been actually put down to paper was the ISIP application. And that was done last year, and council did look at that and did approve the submission of that.
Yes.
And since then, really, right now what we're doing is working through the process and the site selection and various other things.
But we did spend money, correct?
And still waiting for a decision on the grant.
We did
So-
spend money, did we not already? Or didn't we
There was some-
contribute?
Yeah.
There was some spent on the consulting part of it and putting
100
together
was
the ice
was the
pack.
total-
We haven't spent any building or land
No,
money
no, no.
yet.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Was this consulting fee $140,000?
70, I think.
No, not 140, no.
I think it was
70?
70, split 7 ways.
Okay, and we were contributing what, 20? Like, how much? Were we the maximum?
You know what, it's been, I can't even remember
I
what it was.
can't even remember. It was less than we allocated.
Yeah.
The quote came in as less than the original CAO
Yes.
estimate.
Yeah,
And the
okay.
goal I believe the goal out of Thursday is for some of these facts to come back to the steering committee, which is mainly made up of the mayors, and that then a common proposal or common presentation will go back to each and every council through their heads of council.
Okay,
So
so
nothing has come to us until we get facts.
basically the ask to me was, people have asked for transparency on the dollars spent, who approved it and when, about site selection, about the architectural drawings, and they got all these questions that I can't answer, and maybe even the committee at this point can't answer. But I'm just suggesting, if you want buy-in on this project down the road, we better start telling people what we're doing.
I would encourage anybody that has asked you a question to dial into the call on Thursday evening. They'll get all those answers.
This coming Thursday,
Yep, 7 p.m.
we'll be watching the debate.
Pick and choose.
Okay, thank you.
You can actually, if it's on YouTube, you can watch it anytime.
Okay, thank
You
you.
don't have to watch it on Thursday. It'll be
Thursday,
saved
7,
on
okay.
YouTube.
Thank you. And what's it called? Is there, they have
Oh,
to?
Jesus.
you just-
West Perry's down,
Like, I'll get the link
okay,
and I will send it to all the council.
okay.
Thank
Michelle will send you the link
Thanks very
when
much.
it comes. Okay, council reports. Let's start with, all right, is that okay?
Yeah.
Let's start with, Ward 6. Gail?
That's me. Not a lot again. I had a DSAB meeting. It went really well, quite quickly. It was our first Zoom meeting. It went very well. I will be meeting with the RCAC and the Horticultural Society, I think. I'm not sure. I haven't spoken to Dominique, but I know they want to meet. The Horticultural Society will be meeting, so I'll be meeting with them. Other than that, I've had a lot of talks with people in the community, and I thank Peter with a huge thank you to Peter for helping me with Highway 141 and the water issues. Really, really good results. I'm very, very pleased. I met with MTO and Fowler and all of those people, and it was fabulous. And everybody appears to be happy at the moment, which makes me happy. Other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilor Collins?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I also attended the DSAB meeting on the 8th with Gail, our first Zoom meeting. And I also like to say that we got our solar light installed at the Hannah Park in Orville, in downtown Orville. Thank you, Peter, for that. And Linbury Road is almost ready to be completed, and that'll be our another new municipal road that's going to be maintained on a yearly basis. And that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Fellner?
Yeah, since we last met, I attended Board of Adjustment Zoom meeting. I attended library board meeting we had the other night. Things are progressing well there with the strat plan and Stephanie said earlier, and going through some other policies and taking this time to sort of get everything in order. I have a library, or I had a committee of adjustments meeting. And the other members will be happy to get the new member in place. And I have a museum meeting later on this week. So that's about all I have to report.
Thank you. Councilor Osborne?
Thank you, Mayor. I attended by teleconference CPAC meeting last Thursday, since they don't do Zoom at the OPP. And I expect most of the people that were there had a tour of the facility, which I'll pick up on later. I tried to impress upon the fact with Staff Sergeant Jeremy acting that the fact that we've purchased these speed monitors to collect data is so that we can provide them with the data and the information they need to maybe be more proactive in Seguin with their radars, with their stationary radars. So hopefully we'll see what happens when Peter submits that to them. That's all I have to report. Oh, and one other thing, I'm hoping that my colleague Art Coles, who's next, will have an update on the possible rescinding of a fill bylaw for a person in their neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, Ward 2, Councillor Cole.
Thank you. Good luck with that one, Rod. No, you recall the DAG issue where you requested a trail to get access to his cottage, which council approved on a split vote. We're still working with that, with not Mr. Dagg. He sold his property to Mark Naughton, and so we're now working with Mr. Naughton. Last weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, they had all the neighbors had a walkabout to try and come up with a reasonable solution. None of them really want to add fill. That's not the first choice. It was the only solution that they could come up with at the time. But there may be some other, we're working with them. I had a conversation with the current owner yesterday, and he's off for a week, so we can't do anything. So he said he's going to be around next weekend. So we're hoping to continue the discussion next weekend. I'm a little concerned that the property boundaries are not, the owner's properties are kind of mixed, and I'd like to get that piece straightened out because I think that might help solve the problem. Tom McLeod has said that he would come and assist. He likes putting the GIS information together, and he can do it pretty accurately. So that may be part of the solution. So we're working on that one. That's the best I can do right now, Rod. Sorry. The Chamber of Commerce continues to be a bit of a mess. The president, I told you a while ago, resigned, and just recently the vice president has resigned. So there's a previous president has taken over. So it's still running. They're still doing stuff. They're still promoting local businesses. They're doing it online. You will see from time to time on Facebook, as an example, some business promotion that's being done by the Chamber. Belvedere is the good news today. We had a finance meeting this morning, and Belvedere's our last finance meeting. The forecasted deficit at the end of the year was a little over 300,000. As of today, it's 110,000, so it's dramatically come down. And part of that, the main reason for that is, well, there's two reasons. One is they're starting to use the personal care workers more intensely and backing off on the nursing, which saves money. And the COVID recovery from the province is beginning to trickle through. And they anticipate that by year end, there's still money coming, but they can't accrue for it because they really don't know for sure how much and if and when. So, but it has made a difference at this point in time. So we're hoping that by the end of the year, it's down to zero. And they will have their proposed budget for us in November, so we can make sure we've got their piece in our budget much earlier than normal. So that's pretty much it.
Councillor Moffat.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I go into my report, I noticed, I don't think it was in the current package, the Roma conference in January has gone online to the 25th and 26th.
Will be on the agenda in November. It and Good Roads will be on the agenda in the beginning of November, and we will have to decide who wants to sign up for what.
Perfect, and that's what I expected. But in the current package of our council report, there was this massive report by AMO on the federal gas tax fund in 2019. I didn't count how many pages.
563 pages.
Yeah, it was amazing to go through to see where the money is going. and you pop up some of the communities that you may have driven through or maybe lived in or whatever. So it was very, very interesting to see that, and the extent of the work and the detail was amazing. So it certainly I'm just about to send an email to Michelle, because it certainly enlightened me in terms of how the money can be used. It doesn't have to all go into roads and works. There is many other areas that it can go into, and that was really part of the interesting read. So staying on correspondence, there was an item J in the correspondence from a resident of mine, a Dynafax Software Inc. high-speed internet tower, David Cox. He wrote a letter to the editor, and him and I had an opportunity to speak last week to clear the air in terms of some of his information. And I think he realized that the information he was using was not incorrect in his submission. But so I was happy to have a conversation with him and so that we understood each other and where each other was coming from. So that was good. In the last couple of weeks, the mayor and Councillor Coles and I submitted, I believe, for the Otter Lake Ratepayers Association for their fall newsletter. Hopefully, yes, good, okay. So that was done. I've had a number of IceCap meetings. We had a large IceCap membership meeting on Friday for about 3 hours, something like that, to go over our 2021 work plan, budget, and everything else. So sharing some information with Dominique with respect to that. That was a good meeting. It was held at the Foley Community Center. I organized it. We were all socially distanced. Everything was clean, followed the protocols. That was good. Had a meeting with Steve Stone to talk about the official plan and get an update on that. We also got an update from our consultant that we're about 3 weeks behind kind of in the Gantt chart. So I think there's some upcoming work that needs to get done. And Steve is stick handling through that. We've had a number of museum meetings. We're working on the 2021 budget and trying to figure our way financially through the museum. 2020 has been a somewhat banner year, in similar to what we've seen at the library, where we have reduced costs and got some additional grant money and stuff like that. So we're in a better shape. However, 2021 is not looking the same way, in that when we turn back the time and go back to our normal operations, we are, we're working on, the implications of that. And obviously we're not going to move forward as a closed museum. We're not closed now, we're on by appointment only. So there's a different cost structure with regards to that. And obviously some of the government grants won't, come forward in 2021. So we're working on that. We have some budget meetings on that. And that is all on my, I had some residence meetings as well. In addition to speaking to David Cox, had some residence meetings at the beginning, after the last council meeting. So that's it from my end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Business continues, and more organizations are starting to realize they better have some meetings and Zoom meetings. So just to quickly go over what I've been up to, October 6th was an airport commission meeting, again, in a hangar, which is the only way we can physically distance. It's going to be interesting as it gets colder, because the hangars are not heated. October 8th, Michelle and I participated in a VNet update and status meeting about new tower locations. You've seen some of that today. They are incredibly detailed status meetings that are being organized by the smart folks. So we're learning all kinds of things. October 10th was the Saturday Thanksgiving market at the Rosso waterfront. It was smaller than the summer market, but I think well attended, and there are people throughout Rosso still decorating their front yards with hay bales and pumpkins and that kind of thing, even though there wasn't a pumpkin festival. So people are trying to give the autumn feel a little bit throughout the town of Rosso. You folks participated with me in the October 13th special meeting of council. October 14th was a hospital foundation board meeting, and also in the evening, the at last meeting to talk about the boundary with Perry Sound. They did put together a presentation and a vision, which is very different than where we started. And I think what we will be doing, I did specifically ask them if we could share that presentation. And so it'll be coming back to council. We'll share their presentation at the second meeting in November so that Jason can be part of the discussion going back. But because they did the presentation, we said, okay, fair enough. The ball is now in Seguin's court to call the next meeting. So that's where we left it. We were a little surprised by what we got. Basically, they are asking for all of Ward 2. I was invited to attend the OPPC PAC meeting by Carol, who's the interim supervisor there, and I attended with Councillor Osborne. I learned all kinds of things. Couple of facts that I'll share with you that came out of the meeting. The pandemic has totally changed the call numbers, and they're down, even though there are more people here, which I found fascinating. And the OPP believes that's because the provincial parks were closed primarily, which I found very interesting. 911 calls have dropped dramatically through the pandemic, and I was just really surprised. There are 4 new officers joining the detachment, and they're the ones that educated me that our mileage things are called speed spies. And what is up is drug overdose throughout the last 6 months. And to that, they attribute some of that the CERB money has put money in some people's pockets that they didn't have before. So basically, the summary is the vulnerable have become even more vulnerable during COVID, which is interesting. October 15th, last Friday, was a business roundtable with MP Scott Aitchison and MPP Norm Miller. They chaired it, and there were a lot of businesses on there. We went through a lot of where businesses can apply for funding and that kind of thing. It was the entire riding, so East Perry Sound, Muskoka, and it was very interesting. And they promised to have more of these roundtables. It was all on Zoom. And I, like Councillor Moffat, was a little surprised as I started going through the correspondence and really realizing that one item was 563 pages. But it was fascinating to look at what could be done. And I did talk to Michelle as treasurer, and she said traditionally we've tried to use it in one big project so we can actually take that project off our operating funding. And she also commented on how difficult it is to fill out all the forms that created the 563 pages of that. So with that, I think that's the end of the open meeting. Not quite, well, we've got a couple more. The Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the correspondence as presented on the agenda and the addendum for the October 19th, 2020 meeting of the Council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Fellner?
So moved.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Collins.
I'll second that motion, Mayor.
All in favor of receiving correspondence? Thank you. And I have that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby proceed to a closed meeting at 6:45 p.m. in order to address matters pertaining to litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, and that's the 2020 bylaw enforcement activities, and personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees. So we have a letter of interest for the Public Library Board. Could I have a motion from Councillor Finson?
I so move.
and seconded by Councillor Moffat.
We're still recording.
I'll second that.
Not closed yet.
Oh,
We
okay.
will go. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, just give Craig a minute to turn off the stuff.